the vibes are weird at best between Tyreek Hill and the Miami Dolphins. Tua has talked about how they need to repair their relationship, and Tyreek said, yeah, that's true. Tyreek comes out and says, like, we shouldn't have Devon Achane out there on third and short.
When we start talking about truly elite number one wide receivers, they are at or consistently above 72% success rate versus man year in and year out. We just haven't really seen that from Jaylen.
Look at the release.
There's your separation.
Great route.
Stutter and go. Gets by clean.
That is unbelievable.
Maybe the greatest catch I've ever seen.
We go all the way down to South Beach. We talked about the Miami Dolphins. What's the future of Tyreek Hill? He's on again, he's off again, he's on again, he's off again. This is very Tyreek-ish. And the way that it's been going, Matt, I truly honestly believe, and I've interviewed Tyreek a few times now, but it's like, I truly honestly believe he's obviously not bought in. He's trying to not be crazy. I think that's really what it comes down to. I think he's trying his best to not be crazy. The only problem is he's not doing that great of a job with it, is the point that I'm making. He's not bought in and yet doesn't want to go down the Antonio Brown route. But damn, dude, like he can't just keep it all bottled in. You know what I'm saying? So what is the future of Tyreek Hill in Miami?
Oh boy. Well, let's talk about what happened on the field last year from a reception perception standpoint, because I think this is really where like the rubber meets the road of this, because I agree with you. Like the vibes are weird at best between Tyreek Hill and the Miami Dolphins. He's coming out obviously in week 18 after the loss. He said he wanted out of there. Tua has talked about how they need to repair their relationship, and Tyreek said, yeah, that's true. Tyreek comes out and says, like, we shouldn't have Devon Achane out there on third and short.
Oh, man.
Which I don't think Devon Achane or head coach Mike McDaniel appreciated. It's just like one thing after another. But on the field last year, I think this is the most important point. Tyreek Hill, and look, for people that aren't familiar with reception perception, if somehow this is your first exposure to it, this is a player isolating deal. Like we're isolating the wide receiver from surrounding variables. And when you do that, you look at Tyreek Hill, who has been one of the best receivers in the NFL. We know that. In 3 straight seasons, 2021, 22, 22, 23, he was between 75.8 and 75.7% success rate versus man coverage. Great numbers. He has been over 80% success rate versus press in every season except one, from 2016 to 2023. Last year, 2024, 67.3% success rate versus man coverage. So a drop from 75.8 to 67.3. Big drop. Against press, again, like I said, over 80% in every season but one. That one was 79%. So very, very close. From 2016 to 2023, he drops down to 72%. Again, big drop off. Success rate versus zone was still 81.8%, which is a drop from averaging around 84% in 21 to 23, but still decent. Probably definitely the best result relatively of this whole thing. So that is a pretty concerning reality. Those aren't horrible numbers, right, for Tyreek Hill, but it's a decline from the elite player that he once was. And we just don't have a lot of examples of the trend going down and then back up again. We do have, and I say this all the time with aging players, we don't really know what the next step is for these guys. Sometimes you can decline and then drop off a cliff, right? If you're, again, longtime reception perception subscriber listeners, you know some of the examples. Des Bryant, Allen Robinson was this way, right? Where you decline, you go up the cliff, and then that's it. Then there's other guys, Keenan Allen, who may or may not, by the time people hear this, watch this, have signed with the Los Angeles Chargers again or some other team. He's a guy who's been kind of on like a steady decline, right? We haven't seen that like total cliff yet. So, like, what's the next step for Tyreek Hill? I don't really know, but I would bet against it being, okay, he's right back up to being an elite receiver, especially as he is 31 years old now. Like and we've got all this other nonsense here. So just some of the individual routes too, think about how deadly those like deep digs against man coverage were for Tyreek Hill. That was kind of average last year, 72.7%. That was a yellow within the average mark on his route tree. The slant fell below the NFL average. Like, he just wasn't working the middle of the field with the same like change of direction ability. I have no doubt that Tyreek Hill can take the pads off and run in a straight line extremely fast. I have zero doubt. He'll probably be able to do that until he's your age, so quite old. He'll probably be able to do that. Subtle jab. But anyways, he'll be able to do that for a long time. But I just think that what we've seen now at this point is a player that is in the decline phase of his career, which brings us to the Dolphins this year. Like, I don't know, man. If it was me, I would have tried, and I think they may have tried and failed to get out of the Tyreek Hill business this offseason. And I just think, like, I don't know. I would bet against him suddenly returning back to elite form this year.
It's really interesting because Tyreek Hill, I think you could make a lot of excuses for Tyreek. He wasn't bought in. Is he there mentally? And again, from a profile standpoint too, there were certainly things that on the resume that route by route basis looked really, really good. 65% success rate on the 9 route is, I mean, come on now. That's impressive. That is really, really good. And, you know, there's other things in there, like an 87% success rate on the curl route. So he's still threatening vertical. He can still snap back to the quarterback.
Still broke a lot of tackles after the catch. Like, again, this is the player that we're charting out here in 2024 is a useful NFL receiver, like even maybe a good starting NFL receiver. It's just not the same elite level that it once was.
Well, I just wanted to bring up, Matt, how much do you buy into the story of vibes? You know, like, do you feel like, okay, Tyreek Hill, if he gets to a new situation and he fully buys in, we could still get to, you know, a player that was greater than what we saw last year. And last year, what we saw was a usable starting X receiver. That's what we want more from Tyreek than that, right? Like, that's not the point. That's not the guy that, you know, teams are going to be moving for here. Do you feel like if he buys in, gets with the right quarterback, we can get back to, you know, again, we're talking, you know, can we get to 70th percentile of a score versus man? You know, can we get back to that press beating ability? You know, is that a player that is still in the bag there, or do you feel like, and you've seen so many of these guys before, man, but do you just feel like, okay, the time has come and gone. It doesn't matter whether he changes quarterbacks. It doesn't matter whether or not he changes teams. It's, you know, the elite player is just gone.
I think the elite player is probably gone. Again, could we maybe see a better player in 2024? I think that's possible. You know, other people have asked me, like, hey, what about the wrist injury? I maybe that affected it. Maybe that was something I think other people have brought up. Well, you know, maybe he was just dogging it because he wasn't bought in. Let me tell you what, I'm not super high on bringing in a guy who was dogging it just because he wasn't happy or whatever, you know. It just that doesn't seem like a great indicator. Like, when's the last time a guy was just like dogging it and then went to a new situation and balled at age 31? Like, I don't know. That's where I'm at. And I want to kind of transition this into Jaylen Waddle at this point because his profile is also up on the site. Yeah. And I think the reason these two go together to me is because if I am Miami, I want to spend the 2025 season making sure I'm maximizing and pouring into our younger, also highly paid wide receiver who didn't actively try to talk his way off the team in week 18, who's not out at press conferences yapping about running back usage, you know, all of these type of things, who's not, by the way, consistently popping up on the legal radar, you know, in the off season when we're talking about Tyreek Hill. So I think one of the things that people do not understand about Jaylen Waddle, this is a key point. The Miami Dolphins offense is right. It's different. It's very condensed. It's not like a typical, like, receiver roles can get a little blurry in this offense. Yeah. But Jaylen Waddle, since Tyreek Hill arrived, has taken 75.1%, 78.4%, and 76.6% of his sampled snaps outside. He has taken 77.9%, 81.2%, 82.4% of his snaps on the line of scrimmage. That is a number that is going up over the course of his time with the Miami Dolphins. And it is a big flip from what he was as a rookie when he took 47.3% of his snaps in the slot, 4.7 in the backfield, and 65% off the line of scrimmage. Like, I think Jaylen Waddle is a guy that you want to get the ball in space and you want to give layups to. And that is just not the player we've seen at all in Miami. Like, if you ask me who plays the more difficult role in the offense, like, it's Jaylen Waddle. He's running against more press coverage than Tyreek Hill because Tyreek is moving all across the formation. He's taking reps in the slot. He's taking reps in the backfield. He's being, kind of that second receiver in a stack or a bunch that's off the line or even, again, at full speed motion to snap. And Waddle kind of takes like that dirty work. And, his per route efficiency metrics really took a big dip last year. But you got to think about this. Like, okay, this is the guy, again, who's playing he's on the line of scrimmage. He's facing more press coverage. He's running kind of the longer developing routes of these two guys. And he's fourth in terms of the like designed gimme targets because they also had Devon Achane. They also had Jonnu Smith and they had Tyreek Hill last year. So Tua got rid of the ball at under 2.5 seconds in each of the last 2 years because of kind of some of these schemed up touches, because of the offensive line. You're never getting to Jaylen Waddle in the progression. Yeah. So it's just like, to me, I think the guy that needs the role adjustment, the role catering is Jaylen Waddle because he's still a very good football player. 74.5% success rate versus press, just around 80% against zone, 71 against man. Not one of his better seasons last year, right, but still very good, and not any sort of like major fall off. The man coverage scores within the same rate as what it was the year prior. The press number is actually up. It's only the zone coverage number that's like, a couple of percentage points off. So I don't know, man. This is a guy that I think I want to see him get some more of these touches going forward because I think he could really play well with it.
So 2 points that I want to bring up with here. One, are you concerned at all that this is a player that has cracked 72% success rate versus man just one time in his career, and we're pretty well along into his career now. And I get that usage can be a little bit funky, and it was certainly weird last year hearing about all these on the line snaps. Like, okay, how is Jaylen Waddle? That is not the player that Jaylen Waddle is.
Yeah, not his game.
Got to get this guy moving around, man. I don't really understand. Plus, he's great after the catch too. I don't get that. Yeah. Which is, by the way, his rookie season. So much of what he did, that was special was after the catch, and that's why they kind of moved him into the slot and all that kind of stuff. Anyways. Is there a little bit of concern there? Just only because, man, I think I'm not Matt Harmon here, but I've messed around with these numbers enough. I've seen so much of these so much of the RP data enough that when we start talking about truly elite number one wide receivers, they are at or consistently above 72% success rate versus man year in and year out. We just haven't really seen that from Jaylen Waddle.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can kind of comfortably say that Jaylen Waddle is not an elite player. He might not even necessarily be a number one receiver. Like, I think I'd actually love to do this at some point. Maybe we can do it right before the season starts. Like, let's rank the number two receivers in the league. I kind of like that idea.
He's at the top. I mean, he's
up there
with Devontae Smith. He's right there.
But I think if he's not one of the first names that I'd be like, all right, what would he look like as a one elsewhere? I just wrote up Devonta Smith. His profile's on the site. We'll talk about him later this week. He's definitely one of those guys where I'm like, yeah, what would he look like as a one elsewhere? But I don't really have that feeling with Jaylen Waddle, but it's because I kind of agree with you that I think he's stabilized into this is what he is. But I feel like the community is kind of down on him. I think they've kind of overcorrected a little bit. And I think that's sort of like a good number two receiver in an offense that should, again, alter his role a bit. Like, that's sort of what I'm thinking here. Like, again, if you flip some of the Tyreek usage and the Waddle usage, can you get can you get this guy in ways that really emphasize his sort of ability here? Because again, those are not elite numbers or anything like that, but typically when you don't have those like elite man press numbers on your own, we want to see you get a little bit of role catering. And I think when you just, the shocking part about Jaylen Waddle is that there just has not been a lot of role catering for this guy. It's mostly go out on the line of scrimmage and win against press man coverage. And I just really don't think that's necessary. He's okay. He's not even just okay. He's a mostly outside receiver who beats man between 72-71%. Like that's good. Like those are what we always say. Those are certified good players. I think Jaylen Waddle certified good player. And I just wonder if he can be maximized as a producer in a different style of role here, which if I was the Miami Dolphins, you paid this guy $28 million a year, you might want to think about like, how can we get the best out of him going forward? Cause I think he's more part of your long-term build than the 31-year-old receiver who wants to talk his way off the team.
Right. Correct. Again, I'm glad you clarified that for me, because when people hear, well, he needs to be playing ahead, or, he needs more role catering ahead of Tyreek Hill. And he's a younger player. You kind of get the sense of, okay, maybe Jaylen Waddle is truly the number one there in Miami. And so I think you kind of put those into a little bit of context here. So that was really good. Okay, so the team added Nick Westbrook-Ikhine. They brought Darren Waller out of retirement after trading away, Jonnu Smith. Okay. This is a team that is, all right. This is a team that's extremely top heavy with Tyreek and Waddle. And it worked 2 years ago. Didn't work last year. They've got a lot of randoms. Malik Washington, Taj Washington, D. Eskridge. Do any of those three guys move the needle for you?
They also signed Andrew Armstrong out of Arkansas. Remember the guy who's going to be a 25-year-old rookie on Halloween, was a prospect that I liked, led the SEC in receiving last year. I was kind of shocked to see him go undrafted, but again, he's an older rookie. And so I don't know. He's fighting to make this roster too. He actually profiles as a pretty decent X receiver prospect in his own right. And yeah, that's what I'm interested in the Westbrook-Ikhine signing. What a sentence to hear come out of my own mouth, but yeah, I do think wow. I do wonder if he's like the sacrificial X receiver here potentially, right? When they go to 3 receiver sets, let's get him on the line of scrimmage, because you're not going to put Tyreek Hill on the line. You haven't done it for 3 straight years. Like if he's on the team, I tend to doubt that. Tyreek Hill suddenly going to jump up to being like a vast majority on the line of scrimmage player. In fact, he's crossed 60% just once in his entire career. And none of them were with the Dolphins. It was his final year in Kansas City. And again, even still then he was a 44% slot player. So like Tyreek Hill's never been an outside X receiver necessarily. He can do it occasionally, but that's not his strength. So I think again, like we get into 3 receiver sets, maybe Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, who did show an ability to run down the football field and occasionally find his way into the end zone on the end of a Will Levis deep shot. Maybe he can be that sacrificial X, opens things up for Waddle role catering while keeping Tyreek Hill in his same role. I do like Malik Washington as well. Like Malik Washington and Andrew Armstrong are kind of like the deep sleepers of this group here. Both of those guys actually got day 2 ranks from me in the stacked rankings, and one of them was undrafted and one of them went in the 6th round. So maybe I'm the dumbass. Wouldn't be the first time, won't be the last time. But with Washington, he fell because of a neck injury, and I think he actually popped a little bit at times last year, and I think profiles in sort of like the kind of creative touch, but can also run routes sort of way that like a poor man's Tyreek Hill or Jaylen Waddle himself.